Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. and today I'm reviewing Legend Academy by Eldorado Games. This is a game that is soon to be on GameFound. I'll throw a link in the description down below. And this is going to be an adventuring game, more specifically a deck building, card crafting, leveling up abilities adventure game in which you're going to be doing a variety of things from attacking various baddies and stuff, interacting, building out your deck, and trying to ultimately do things better than the other adventures, the other legends in this game. Because you're going to be playing as one of the 4 adventurers, or at least in the core box at least. I don't know exactly what's planned as far as GameFound or expansions or other characters. I believe they said there will be other characters, probably expansion stuff. Don't know yet. Looking forward to that. But in the core set, you're going to have Robin Hood, you're going to have Paul, you're going to have Alice, and you're going to have Red Riding Hood. That's the last one. You're going to have these 4 characters, these 4 legends that are basically going through Legends Academy. They're going through school and they're going to be diving into various mythical adventures and having your own version of those adventures. So for example, in this prototype over here, by the way, everything you see is a prototype, from, well, components to cards to meeples, miniatures, whatever it is they have here, all prototype stage. But you're going to be diving in this prototype, you have Gulliver's Travels, and each adventure is going to be divided up into 2 phases in this game. So you have Semester 1, and then if I flip this page, we're going to go to Semester 2, I think it's called, the second part of this journey. Because you're going to have different objectives as you go through 4 rounds in part 1, and then 4 more rounds in part 2. And in those rounds, you're basically going to go ahead and draw 6 cards from your adventure deck. You're going to draw 6 cards. You're going to use those cards to drive your actions. I'll show you a bit more in a second. Those actions are primarily going to be accomplishing the various objectives you have in each scenario. So for example, in this scenario, we have the objective to interact with 3 of the 4 castles. So you're going to spawn over here in this central zone, and then you're going to have to go ahead around the board and try to interact with the castles. Other adventures are going to get in your way. Your ability to move is going to be a limitation. These various Lilliputs over here are going to be constantly trying to get in your way, and you're going to have to stomp them, giving you points when you do, because in scenario 1, you're still trying to convince them that you're not that terrible and evil as they try to throw ropes over you and hold you back. Now, when you head over to the second part of the adventure, the Lilliputs are now friends with you, and they're now using you to take out their enemies, destroy their ships, throw them on the shore, all that. Again, a little bit of a combination of legends as characters and the stories they are diving into. That's all the theme and general aspects of the game, but then we get to the part of the game where you're actually going to go ahead and do fun things. So you're going to have your stamina card. I'm going to lay it on the board so you can see it a little better. You're going to have 3 stamina cards in your deck as well, which I happen to get all 3, which may or may not be a good thing. I'm going to go ahead and play 1 stamina card. The reason I'm playing that is whenever you play a stamina card, what you're effectively doing is you're going to have a starting stamina card every single round. That stamina card allows you to play 2 cards. When I play another stamina card, I still keep that slot in the middle, but I've added another play, so that helps over there. And I'm going to start by playing Rest. Rest is going to be in my starting deck, and it's going to let me draw a number of cards equal to my Wisdom. The way this game tracks your core stats, your Wisdom, your Strength, your Charisma, the way it's going to do that is going to track it based on the number of cards currently played, plus the number of cubes, the number of abilities you've upgraded. So I'm going to go ahead and draw 1 because my Wisdom is equal to 1. Now I drew Attack. Now just for the sake of showing you this, I'm going to pretend that I drew another Rest, okay, because that would be relevant to this. So now I'm going to draw another Rest. Look at that! I drew another Rest. Excellent. I'm going to play that again, and because I already have a Rest here, I now have Wisdom of 2. So now I'm going to draw 2 cards. I'm going to go ahead and continue building up my stamina so I can keep getting more plays over there, which means now I have the maximum plays you can have on a turn, which is going to be 5 plays on a turn, maximum assuming you don't do other card abilities. From there, I'm going to go ahead. I'm currently playing as Paul. Paul's over here. I'm going to go ahead and interact with the castle. So I'm going to go ahead and interact. I now get 10 points. That's going to be listed over here, as well as the fact that I've accomplished 1 of the 4 castles I need to interact with. From there, I'm going to go ahead and move. You know what? I'm going to attack before I move, although attacking won't do much for me because the Lilliputs currently have a health of 2, and I don't have any stats to really get, higher than that. I'm going to go ahead and use Paul's axe. I'm going to pay 2 money to use Paul's axe, dealing 2 damage to an adjacent character. So I'm going to take out that Lilliput, and I'm going to go up 5 points for taking out the Lilliput. So now I have 15 points for this scenario so far. And then I'm going to go ahead and I guess I'm going to go ahead and move. You can't really move very far. Move a number of spaces equal to your endurance. My endurance level is just 1, unfortunately. So I'm going to move a sad, lonely little 1. And then I'm going to try to interact again. There's nothing I can do to interact. Not much I can do. I'm going to pass and get 3 points for an extra card slot. In general, every extra play slot you don't use is worth a few points. That's the general idea of your action turn sequence. You play cards, you're managing your stamina cards, you only have 3 stamina cards in your deck. I got all 3, which means next turn I'm going to be drawing from this deck. I will be shuffling in my discard. It's a deck builder, so I may have a chance to get some of those stamina cards again. Before we do that though, let's go ahead and go to schools in session, or whatever this phase is called. It's something to do with school. But either way, you're going to have an adventure phase, a school phase, an adventure phase, a school phase. So now I'm going to get ahead over here where I can upgrade. The way you're going to do that, it's going to be a time marker showing it's the first round of the game. The way you're going to do that is you're going to go ahead and you're going to choose one of these areas to go to in some way upgrade your deck. You're going to have, for each of the 4 colors, you're going to have the same basic stats, but just in each different color. So for example, I can take 2 endurance cards, I'll explain that in a second, or I can take an endurance card and 2 endurance upgrades, or an endurance card and an upgrade, endurance card and upgrade, an endurance card and 5 money, or an endurance card and buy one of the various treasures over here. Those are treasures you can buy from interacting or from going over there. So, and that's going to be replicated for each of those 4 areas. So let's say I'm going to go ahead and look at Paul's board over here. You're going to have a little bit of a too many bones-esque kind of board over here where you can upgrade different stats. So for instance, Paul has a very strong red tree over here where I can go from log splitter to axe throw to log roll to axe swing, going through that. I want to be a little bit more nuanced there, and I want to look at the stars. The stars are going to define where I have those initial setups. So I'm going to go ahead and do this ability over here where I can take 2 blue cards. I'm going to put my token there so other players can't do that, at least until the second phase of the game. And I'm going to grab Setup Camp and Big Old Boy over there, which are going to be cards that are going to give me ways to augment my deck, but they're going to start in my deck next turn. So we have Setup Camp over here, and Big Ol' Boy. Setup Camp is going to be placed the Setup Camp tile on an unoccupied adjacent space, and we have Big Ol' Boy, draw a number of cards equal to your strength, which is very good if I continue to upgrade my strength. So I'm going to go ahead, add those to my hand, and those will show up in my hand next round. Now, if I chose to go with the upgrade route, or taking a card and 2 upgrades, for instance, you would draw upgrades from these various slots over here, upgrades that fall into the card crafting variety. These upgrades over here would go ahead, and they would go into, let's say, one of these cards. You can slot it. So for instance, I can slot one of these blue upgrades into my move card, where it would be basically give me the ability that I would move a number of spaces equal to my endurance, but then I'd also take 2 money. And if I get a second one, you can slot up to 2 upgrades per card, taking advantage of those various slots, and now take an additional 4, or basically this card's going to let me move and take 6 money. Each one of the various types of abilities will give you different types of interacts. And Wisdom is going to give you money, Endurance is going to give you additional movement, Strength is going to give you additional attacks, and Charisma is going to give you additional interacts with castles or treasure spots or whatever else there is on the board. Lastly, you have a few locations over here that you can go to that will basically not let you upgrade your deck or your cards, but rather they'll give you a powerful upgrade card, much more powerful, so you'll have a draw 4 ability. That can be incredibly cool. You can have move enemies 6, that's amazing. You can have interact at a range of 6, that's a ton of fun. Additionally, they'll give you abilities either leading your deck over here, or alternatively by taking an equipment card for free, one of these equipment cards, taking those over there. That is the primary idea of this game. There's going to be a few other aspects to go over. First of all, we have equipments we didn't really touch upon. You can have individual objectives that you're trying to accomplish. So these objectives over here are going to be cycling every round, and you can choose which ones you try to accomplish. So for example, if I play 2 charisma cards, I can get 10 points, which is awesome. You can get anywhere between on the low end 20 points, or on the high end as much as 40 points in a single round if you're efficiently accomplishing all your objectives, and you will be building your deck and making decisions around that. And then lastly, you're going to have, well, not lastly, but you're going to have, as well as that, you're going to have the phase of the enemies attacking at the end of each round. What you're going to do is you're going to go through the rounds, but at the end of each round, you're going to have the enemies attacking you. The Lilliputites or the castles are all going to attack other players that are within range. You're going to flip these cards over here that are going to give you the new attack or range of the various castles. Reading that over there, you probably can't see on the camera, but they'll define the range and the range, the attack value, all their stats, whether they move and attack, all those kinds of things against you as the characters on the board. That's basically and primarily Legends Academy. Like I said already, it is an adventuring, deck building, card crafting, upgrades and abilities kind of game. It's a game where you're going to be accomplishing different objectives in different scenarios, but the way you build out your characters, the way you build out your decks, the pathways you choose, the way you combine those pathways with card crafting, the way you combine that card crafting with abilities, the way you combine that with the stats you're trying to do, the way you take into account the board, all of that is what's giving you the puzzle of this game. And it gives you sequential deck building. It's not a free-form idea of just, hey, you can deck build either from a static market or from whatever cards are most efficient. Rather, you have a tech tree almost to unlock as you go through it. You really want that timber card? That's a really cool card, but you have to work your way towards it. There's a lot of things you're trying to do in this game to get to the abilities that you want in the game. The card crafting further adds to that puzzle in the game. Maybe you want to level up an attack card with attack buffs that will give you a stronger or multiple attacks. The flip side is adding those attack cards to a movement card might give you greater flexibility. You can move and attack. That is a greater degree of flexibility in the game, but your attacks might be weaker. Loading them up onto a single attack card can mean you well position yourself amongst a little crowd of Lilliputs, and you go boom, boom, boom onto 3 different Lilliputs, giving you a chunk of points, 15 points in a single shot in this game. The player powers, the unique player powers that they each have, you're going to have your own individual player power you have, and something we didn't touch upon is the fact that you're going to be sharing your player powers with other characters. Characters around the table will have access to your player powers, and when they use it, they'll flip a card, giving you a benefit as well. So you have this feeling of interaction as you're incentivized to go, no, 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 please use my ability. Help yourself, because then I'll get a card draw or points or movement in this game. And then the main thing in this game, all that card crafting, all those abilities, everything else, the main thing in this game, and something I've touched upon in other videos that I've done already when talking about Legend Academy, is going to be the combos in this game. This game is broken in the best possible way, and take it with a grain of salt when I say broken, I'll explain that a bit more, but this game gives you a ton of ways to look for combinations, a ton of ways to try to figure out how can I take advantage of the engine that is being built here? How can I take advantage of my player's tech tree? Which way can I try a new pathway this game? Which way can I combine it with the scenario we're playing? Which way can I combine it with the equipment that's coming out or the various cards that are in the market here? What is the best pathway and combinations I can take to basically walk away with a lot of points? Because there are a lot of points on this table. There are a lot of points to be had in this game. There are a ton of things you can do, from the interactions you can have, from defeating enemies, interacting with castles, or just your own individual engines. Some of these equipment cards will give you points whenever you play certain card types. Some of your own cards might give you points or money, and money can be turned into points. Money will buy you economy in this game, in the game, as well as points at the end of the game. There's a ton of fun ways to try to figure out how you are going to build and develop out each character, and each character is their own unique little puzzle. I have primarily played this game. When I've played this game, I've primarily played it as Alice, and I'm still not tired of Alice just yet. I keep enjoying the new ways to slightly figure out a different build, to slightly combine it with the board state or the pathway or adventure type that I try to go through. Maybe I try to heavily go and attacking the Lilliputs, trying to score a ton of points there. I may lose 30 points for not accomplishing my interacting with 3 castles. But along the way, I'm trying something new, and perhaps I'm killing a bunch of enemies that will be worth that compensating factor. There's a lot of pathways to victories in this game. Now, there's a few things I don't like about the game, and they are relevant to that broken combo thing, because number one is going to be that aspect of broken combos. This game is still very much going through playtesting. This is a game that my first experience with this game was completely broken. It was a game which I tried a new character, and to be fair, it was a new character. It was a character that had been created and developed a few days earlier, and I was literally part of the first people that were playing that character, Alice again, and I completely stomped on everyone. I found a bunch of combinations in her cards and her deck and things that just combined in a way that were ridiculously fun for me, but we ended up calling the game halfway through because there was not a chance on earth anyone else was winning. When I next dived back into Alice, things were reined into control at that point. They're already constantly going through playtesting, they are changing and updating things, but Alice still managed to stomp on people, but much, much less so. And so this is a game that is constantly going through that iterative playtesting. I know that from speaking to them that the last 50 plays they've had on servers with various playtesters have been, well, resulted in much more balanced games with no one breaking anything just yet. But it very much is in that phase where the broken powers, the combos, all that stuff that makes the game fun also can result in a less fun play experience for other players when they realize that there's not a chance on earth that they're actually winning because someone else found a combination of powers, abilities, and something in the game that leads them to have a runaway leader effect. Not necessarily an issue on any individual play session, but if that becomes a regular occurrence in the game, that can take away from the fun for other players at the table. Broken is good, but only if everything is broken in equal measure in the game. I'm not a fan of the art so far, in general. I think the art's okay. I'm not, like, for instance, looking at the player boards, the player characters themselves, I'm fine with it. Looking at the player board itself, it doesn't pull me in. It doesn't help that I'm dealing with standees and 3D printed miniatures. This is very much a prototype complaint, but one that I'll still mention. I think the art's fine, but overall, I'm far more pulled in by the game and the mechanics of the game than I am by the art or anything like that. And then lastly, some of the player cards just don't interest me at all when building out your combo. Every player is going to come with 16 different cards, 16 different ways they can build out, develop, and augment their deck. And some of them are incredibly fun. Some of them are like, I need to get to that card. I need to unlock card X, Y, and Z so I can get to that card because that card is tremendously fun. Others are cards that are sometimes even at the end of a chain, and I'm just like, I don't see how that works with this engine. Now, granted, any number of plays with any individual character, maybe I'm just not seeing it yet, but some of the cards I just find to be lackluster in the way they will actually come into play later on in the combo. It's like you might be giving me card draw in a way that doesn't help me, because in order to have gotten that card, I already will have very good card draw. Again, prototype, but certainly some cards have just been less interesting to myself personally. As far as I can see others not liking, to begin with, this is a point salad adventure game. Like I said already, everything in this game is giving you points. It is very much a Euro point salad game, except it's not really a Euro game. It's an adventure game with powers and abilities and card crafting and deck building and equipment and all that. It's going to be a game where every variation of how you approach the game is giving you points, and it's a question of finding that tree, finding that nuanced pathway that will give you the most points. And so if point salad in general isn't your thing, this is still going to be a point salad game. There are going to be aspects of luck in the game, aspects in different ways from the objectives you draw. You might have a player who draws 2 perfect objectives for them that they can easily accomplish, and other players who draw objectives that don't really work with their engine, and that can be a 30-40 point swing on a single turn, which is a big deal. You can have cards that pull out. You might perfectly plan for the idea that, well, as long as the Lilliputians don't attack at range 3 this turn, I'm good to go. And then draw, of course, Lilliput's attacking at range 3, putting you in much more danger. You can have small degrees of luck. Maybe someone else gets the perfect equipment that merges with their build right before their turn. Someone else buys their equipment, the next equipment comes out, and they're like, oh, that works perfectly for me. It meshes with what you're trying to do. And of course, the luck aspect of drawing cards as well. Those stamina cards are pretty impactful, but you can have bad turns in this game. The game has the potential to have bad turns. It's rare, it's infrequent. But in a game with only 8 turns, you might have 3 players who have no bad turns. This is often something you can do to draw cards or min-max or mitigate whatever's going on. But you might have a single player in the game who throughout the game has a single bad turn. And a single bad turn when you only have 8 turns can be consequential, because you're going to have these stamina cards, and you might have a turn where you just draw everything except stamina cards, and you have no card draw, because card draw will usually get you stamina cards. But if you're all out of card draw, you're all out of stamina cards, and you end up with just a handful of attacks and interacts and nothing really else that helps you, you actually might find yourself in a tough spot where you're like, I get to do 2 things this turn. Yay! Now granted, your next turn will be fully powerful because you have all your stamina cards and everything prepped out. But again, that aspect, there are going to be degrees of luck in this game that might give you either occasional or infrequent or different degrees of frustration around that. And then lastly, I'd say there are some easy to miss steps or sequential steps or points in this game. There's a lot of different facets going on, a lot of things to remember. You might have a combo that rewards you for doing X, Y, and Z, but there's enough things going on in the game that you might forget that you have to get X, Y, and Z when you do that. Maybe every time you play a card this turn, you're going to get extra points. Maybe when you play interact cards, charisma cards, you're going to get money. Whatever that thing you're getting in the game is, or even just the sequencing of when you finish off your step and you go ahead over here and then you draw objectives and you go to school. There's a bunch of small steps in this game that just might be missed at any given point. Small things might be cleaned up or whatnot, but they're definitely there at the moment. Legends Academy for me, as far as final thoughts and rating and all that, Legends Academy for me is in a very tough spot. I have been enjoying Legends Academy a lot. Like, a lot. This game is everything I like in games. It is broken powers and abilities. It feels like the first time I'm playing Kemet all over again. It feels like I have a tableau of just tons of abilities and ways to upgrade and develop my character in rewarding facets. It feels like the character depth of Too Many Bones, but without the game weight and everything else. There's a lot of fun things going on in Legend Academy. All the things that I look for and enjoy in games. And this should, by all accounts, be a 5 out of 5 for me. And yet I can't give it a 5 out of 5 yet. Just where it is right now in the development stage, I can't give it a 5 out of 5 because I am enjoying this game more on the premise and the promise of what I think it will be, but I needed to get there first, because for me, Legends Academy for me right now, if I were rating it right now, it has to be a 4 out of 5 for me. I really enjoy this game, and I think it will be a 5 out of 5. When I think they're through that playtesting, I think this will end up as a game that I thoroughly enjoy every aspect of, and I hope they have as many characters, as many powers, abilities, equipment, upgrades, maps, scenarios, everything that I'm looking for to give this game as much variety as possible, although honestly, even what I have here is plenty of variety. I hope this game goes through the playtesting it needs to simultaneously keep the fun of the brokenness while keeping it balanced in the brokenness at the same time. And again, it's worth noting that they're doing a lot of playtesting. And I would say it's very possible that I have had an imbalanced amount of broken experiences compared to the amount of playtesting that's been going on. That said, a game that I've played 4 or 5 times, that I've had at least 2 games that were straight up broken, that's a lot, it holds me back from giving it a 5 out of 5, at least where I am right now. I think it will be there. I think it is one that if you like powers and abilities, if you like card crafting, if any of the things that I like in games, if any of the things that I've been pointing to as enjoyable aspects of this game call to you, then this is one that's absolutely worth checking out. I believe it will get to where it needs to be. I just need to hold back my rating a bit until it actually gets there, because one of two things can happen that stop this from being what I think it will be. It could potentially have some of the fun streamlined out of it, or it could still have some broken combos that lead to players having less ideal experiences. And if either of those do pass through by the time this game finally goes to production, then it would stay at a 4 to 5. To be clear, if this were the final game, I'd still want it. I'd still want to play it. The possibility for a broken experience is not a great thing, but it is overshadowed for me by the amount of fun. Even when in my plays where someone has been totally beating someone else, every other player at the table has been having a good time figuring out their own combos. Look what I just did this turn. Look how many ships I just destroyed and smashed on the shore. It doesn't matter that that guy's ahead by 100 points. They are having fun at the same time. I'll throw a link in the comments down below, in the description down below. This game is currently on there's a link to it on GameFound. I think this video is going up before it actually launches. We'll figure it all out, but I will see you there. This is Legends Academy by Eldorado Games. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was useful and helpful. And as always, have a good one.